Yesterday, we previewed the Oklahoma Sooners offense going into the spring game this weekend, and today I wanted to focus on the Oklahoma Sooners defense because the Oklahoma Sooners defense might have a problem, and it's not what you think it is, and we have got to get into it. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited for this year's Sooners defense? And let me know which players you're most looking forward to come Saturday. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification because I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. And I'm actually on my push to 5,000 subscribers in my first year, and I would love to have you along for that journey. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below because those interactions really do go a long ways. And first and foremost, let me address the claim I had at the beginning of this video that I actually think that the Oklahoma Sooners have a problem on defense, but it's not what most people think of when people say this defense has a problem. The problem of the Oklahoma Sooners is figuring out how they are going to get all of this talent involved. The Oklahoma Sooners have what could be position battles all over the field. Even guys that started last year have guys behind them that are incredibly talented that will be pushing for starting positions, i.e. the inside linebacker group. But it doesn't just end there. I guess when we start this off, we'll start off with the front seven to simplify things, go over the front seven and then the defensive backfield. In the front seven, I don't know where to start with the excitement. You have guys such as Josh Ellison and Jordan Kelly that have been pegged by the coaching staff as names to watch out for this season because they have been phenomenal in the spring. You have guys such as Jalen Redmond coming back after opting out last year because he had some health issues that he felt that was best for him to sit out last season, and understandably so. But now he's coming back, and he will be back with a vengeance. He's going to be looking to prove to college football just how talented he is. And then when you look behind that, you have Perion Winfrey, Reggie Grimes, Corey Robertson, and we haven't even begun to talk about some of the freshmen that will be along this defensive front. We haven't even begun to talk about the outside guys like Clayton Smith, guys like Nick Benito, guys like Marcus Strickland. This Oklahoma defensive front is ridiculous. And the thing that's going to be so interesting is specifically with your inside guys. Right now, your depth is going to be one of the greatest tools you have going forward this year. And what I mean when I say that is throughout the course of a college football game, the offensive line typically doesn't make adjustments. And if they do, it's not because of a good reason. The offensive line is set in stone, but your defensive front can continue to violently crash into them with wave after wave after wave of depth. And towards the fourth quarter, that offensive line just doesn't have that same pep that they did in the first quarter. But some of your guys, they're still ready to go because they've been able to get out, get in. They're still fresh, and it really helps ensure victory come the fourth quarter. And that's really what stands out to me specifically about the inside group for Oklahoma. I think that they have a lot of reason to be excited about this inside group specifically. But the depth of it is probably, I think, its greatest upside. The fact that they have so many places to go, so many names that could take a starting position, that's a great problem to have. I always talk about when I'm talking about Alabama football, iron sharpens iron. And right now, the OU defense is currently experiencing that on almost every level. And that right there is incredible. But when we talk about the edge rush position, I talk about how there are certain universities that just have an unbelievable amount of talent and sign OU up for one of those when it comes to the edge rush position. My goodness gracious, this position group right here is going to be downright scary. The edge rusher position features Nick Benito, who was a second-team All-American last season, and it doesn't look to fall off from there. You have guys such as Isaiah Thomas, who are talking about how this defense is as deep as it's ever been up front, and getting to the quarterback will be huge. Getting to the quarterback will be very huge considering the Oklahoma Sooners lost 2 DBs last year to the draft. And while the Sooners have great talent at the defensive backfield position that we will talk about, you still want to be able to get to the quarterback because last year against the pass, the Sooners ranked 83rd. Now, they weren't 83rd in a bad capacity. They were a talented group and they made progressions throughout the season, but you don't want to be 83rd again this year. And you don't want to be 83rd this year with 2 new defensive backs also in the rotation. That could be recipe for disaster. But luckily for the Sooners, First and foremost, your defensive backfield is incredibly talented. We're going to break that down in a little bit. But secondly, your pass rush is incredibly scary. You have got a lot of different ways to get to the quarterback, whether it's some of the interior guys we've talked about, whether it's Benito or these extra pass rush guys. I don't even know where to look and who to talk about on this OU defensive front to really single out. There are so many names that I am looking forward to on this Oklahoma spring game that it's going to be a really nice change of pace. Usually every year you watch the offense with the utmost excitement, and certainly I will be watching the offense with incredible excitement this year. But this OU defense, there are so many names that I think could be big names this year for the fall. It's very hard for me to truly pin one down for y'all on any given level because there is so much depth, and that is an amazing problem to have. But the problem of depth does not just end with that front line. And in fact, if we look at the inside linebacker position, that might be the greatest indication of the problem at depth that they have. Inside linebacker for OU features one of the most intriguing inside linebackers in all of college football. David Ugwoegbu is going to be an incredibly talented linebacker. He is going to be competing for starting reps with guys such as Deshaun White and Asamoah. Now, it's not going to be easy cementing himself into that group. Deshaun White is a very capable linebacker, Asamoah, a very capable linebacker, and they're all very athletic. But at 6'4", Ugwoegbu might be too athletic to keep off the field, and that's exactly what I mean when I talk about iron sharpens iron. This sort of battle right here is only going to make every player involved better. And the Oklahoma Sooners have talked about this to their credit. Some of the players have come out and talked about how they can never have a bad day because they know the guy behind them is rearing and ready to go, and there's not a drop-off in talent. This is why you hear Sooners fans so excited about this Oklahoma defense. And for people who are of opposing fan bases, I implore you, first, go watch the progression of OU last season when you have time. Watch OU games from last season from start to finish and really see how this defense progressed. And two, then just go really check out this defensive roster. Go watch these guys and then see if you don't see why Oklahoma fans have the level of excitement that they have. This could be a very special defense. The inside linebacker position is probably my favorite position group right now for the Sooners going into spring game because it's a position group that my eyes are going to be glued to. Ugwoegbu is going to be one of the most intriguing athletes in all of the nation, and ESPN actually pinned him as the number 2 guy to watch for a breakout star in 2021, and I think that that's very well deserving. He is a name that we really need to look to. If he has a good spring game, he could help elevate himself, but this is going to be a battle that continues throughout fall camp, and at the end of the day, I think we have to also realize that they are going to find a way to get everybody involved, which highlights something else before we get into the defensive backs. I really cannot say enough about this OU defensive coaching staff, and it doesn't just start with Grinch. It really goes all the way through. Thibodeau, you name them, I think that they've done a phenomenal job. Lincoln Riley has done a great job of assembling a really capable defensive staff, and Grinch has been able to turn it around, and it needs to continue. And this is going to be a very telling year because the Oklahoma Sooners have so many coaches that are doing so well in recruiting, and the guys on the field are talking so highly of them. It's only a matter of time before other institutions try and come get them. And that is a good problem to have as well, Oklahoma. It means you're picking the right guys, and they're doing the best job possible. The Oklahoma Sooners really do have a lot to be excited for, but let's not confuse excitement for actual on-field production. Everything still needs to be put into place, and it still needs to succeed, because if that comes together, mixed with this offense, college football is going to be in for a treat come the fall in this Oklahoma Sooners team. But now, before we end this, let's talk about the defensive backfield, because this is a group that will need to shore things up from last year, and they were very talented last year. But I think that the recent interview published on both 24/7 Sports, on Sports Illustrated, about talking to these defensive backs, and there was this sentiment of, we were okay with being just okay, and that's no longer the case. They say that they go out there every day and feel a fervency that they haven't felt in quite some time. And it really highlighted exactly what I said earlier about the iron sharpens iron, that none of these guys can go out there and have a bad day because the guy behind them is rearing and ready to go. And really, when we talk about the DB room, I think the only thing that is known is your safety position is pretty much down pat. You have Fields back there, you have Yells back there. That's going to be a very strong point for this defense. But you did lose those two cornerbacks. The positive side for you, Oklahoma fans, is that even though you lose those two cornerbacks, a lot of the guys on this roster that will be vying for those starting spots that we think have starting experience in some capacity. And the ability to replace guys that leave with experience is going to be very big. It means that the learning curve will be slightly less. And not only do they have experience, but they're very capable. And there's a lot of faith on the inside about this defensive back room. And I think it's well placed, but it needs to be shown. But when you look at this room and they get a guy like Key Lawrence in, who, when we heard some of the guys on OU talk about him, they said that when it's all clicking for him, he might be one of the best players on the whole team. That guy right there is competing for a job with Credell. That sort of competition is only going to make them both better. And don't count out freshman Billy Bowman. I understand how good Credell is, right? But Billy Bowman is special. He's a guy that will be trying to see his way to the field in whatever capacity, and given how talented he is, I think we will see him in some capacity this year, though I don't know what. I'm not saying I have him pegged to beat Credell for that starting job. I'm not saying I have him pegged to beat Lawrence. I'm just saying he is so talented we simply cannot ignore him. And then you have a guy such as Justin Harrington, who has the ability to play really any position in the defensive backfield, and so it's going to be super intriguing to see where they ultimately put him. And this is what I mean when I started the video. The Oklahoma Sooners have a problem on defense, though it's not a problem in your typical fashion and understanding of the word. But there is an absolute reason why OU fans and people around the program and around college football are looking at Norman right now with their eyes raised and wondering what's going to happen. And there's no doubt in my mind that Saturday will draw a large viewership just to see how Grinch continues to evolve this defense, because at every single level, there is talent, there is depth, and there is a little bit of intrigue. And because of that, you can count me in for Saturday. But now I really want to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments. Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited for the Sooners defense this year? And let me know what players you think are going to break out come Saturday. I can't wait to hear from y'all. That's it. See ya.